Hi everyone, my name is Shauna in case you don't know, and welcome back to another video. I'm going through a really hard time right now, but I'm trying to stay consistent with the schedule, with the things that I do and the hobbies that I do, and YouTube is a hobby of mine that I would like to eventually earn money off of, so it's something that I'm trying to stay on schedule for. So for this week, I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in the month of March. I read 9 books in the month of March, and my average star rating was 3.11 stars, so decent rating. Anything above 3 stars is a decent rating for me. The first book I read in the month of March was a Sarah J Maas book because I was wanting to read one of her books, but I wasn't really feeling like finishing the A Court of Thorns and Roses series, so I picked up the only other one I hadn't read, which was Catwoman Soul Stealer. Basically, in case you don't know anything about the DC Icon series, there's a bunch of young adult authors who were hired to write novels for different DC villains and heroes and stuff. So this is the Catwoman one, obviously. This one follows Selena Kyle as Catwoman, and she has a really rough childhood, and she ends up going to the League of Assassins to get trained, and she comes back to Gotham City with a mission in mind. The love interest and the other focus in the story is Luke Fox's Batwing. I was talking to someone about this book while I was reading it, and he was very impressed that Luke Fox was in here because he feels like Luke Fox isn't in the comics very much and shouldn't be a love interest for Catwoman. I don't really know, I haven't read enough of the comics to really have a strong say on it, but I did really like Luke Fox and Selena in here, and I thought that they were good for each other with the way that they were written. So I was very satisfied with this one. This one might be my favorite Sarah J Maas book. I also find that normally when I'm reading Sarah J Maas, there's a lot of cringy lines, especially ones that have to do with like weird gendered things. None of that was in here. The writing was a lot better in here compared to all of the other Sarah J Maas books that I read. Definitely a top contender for my favorite Sarah J Maas book, and definitely my favorite book in the month of March, possibly my favorite book that I've read all year so far. I think that this book tackled a lot of very serious topics in very respectful and thoughtful ways. For example, it tackles PTSD, which I felt very seen in, and also tackles racial bias within the police system, and it also tackles chronic illnesses in very detailed and meaningful ways to me. I also like the way that all the villains were very humanized in this story. Yes, they are doing bad things, but they have humanity to them, and it doesn't end off with like, oh, all of these villains are bad, they have no chance at a better future. It ends off in a very hopeful way that I really liked. So I love this one, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Then I read Chainsaw Man Volume 6 by Tatsuki Fujimoto. So this basically wraps up the Reze arc in Chainsaw Man. In case you don't know about Chainsaw Man, it's about this world in which basically people's fears are turned into devils. It's about this guy who dies, and then he gets the chainsaw devil to take place of his heart, and that's what keeps him alive, and he gets recruited to work for an organization because he is a hybrid between a devil and a human. The Reze arc is a bit overrated in my opinion. I was never really sold on the Denji Reze romance that everyone's in love with. I was never really sold on Reze. Not to say that it's like a bad arc or anything, because there's definitely stuff that I liked about it. I think what really stands out to me about this volume and about the Reze arc in general is the beam moments, the violence moments, and the Aki Angel moments. Those were definitely my favorite. Those 4 characters really carry a lot of the series for me. And so this one I gave 3 out of 5 stars. Volume 7 is the next one that I read. It introduces a ton of new characters, so it was a lot of just learning about different characters. However, there was a lot of stuff that I really liked about this volume, and I felt like it was one of the more solid volumes in the series. I liked the really comedic moments in here that Power had, and I also loved the scenes with Kobani and with Violence because I feel like I can finally see their chemistry, and I just think they work really well together. This one was another 3 out of 5 star one for me. I don't think any volume in Chainsaw Man will ever get 5 stars for me because it is a bit overrated, and because there is some, I guess, sexual stuff is what I call it, that I don't really like in the series. Not sexual, because it isn't the fact that it's sexual that makes me uncomfortable. There is pervy stuff in here is what I'd say. And then volume 8, we got explicit queer representation in Chainsaw Man, which I really appreciated that, and I wasn't expecting that. I heard people talking about the wives a lot, and I thought that it was just like headcanoning. I didn't realize that it was like actually like canon queer representation within Chainsaw Man, which I thought was really nice. I was confused though, because people hype up the wives so much. They talk about cosplaying the wives and everything. I'm like, they had such a small part in this series that I'm surprised that everyone loves them as much as they do, but I don't know, maybe they just really resonated with some people. I also didn't really understand Hell and how it works in the series because it was introduced in this volume, and yeah, I just don't really understand the logistics of how it works and everything with that. So this one was another 3 out of 5 star read for me. And then since I like Catwoman Soul Stealer so much, I decided to read another one in the DC Icon series, and I read Wonder Woman Warbringer by Leigh Bardugo. Leigh Bardugo is an author that I've been wanting to read from for a while. I have a few of her books on my shelf. I believe I have Six of Crows, Shadow and Bone, and King of Scars. Her books are always so hyped up, and Wonder Woman Warbringer, I remember in particular when I first joined BookTube and BookTok, was so hyped up, so I was hoping to enjoy this one. It follows Diana, aka Wonder Woman, and she's living on the island with her people when she spots a ship crash way out off of sea. She decides to go and save someone from the ship crash, but she discovers that this person is a warbringer. She is from a line of people who everyone in her family line brings war. So Diana decides to go to the human world to try and stop the cycle of war that these warbringers bring. So honestly, if you've seen the Wonder Woman movie, the original one with Gal Gadot, a lot of this will be deja vu. The plotline felt very similar. Person crashes at the island, Diana goes to save the person, Diana must leave with that person to go stop a big war, a big world war. It's a very similar plotline, so there's a lot of deja vu about it. The difference is that Diana in here is a 16-year-old and instead of Chris Pine you get a teenager. I found some of the characters in here to be very, very annoying and they pulled me out of the story constantly. For example, Aaliyah and Nim were the two that were the biggest problem for me. I found them so unbelievably annoying and I could not stand them. However, there are other characters that I really liked in here. I thought that the characterization of Diana was done very, very well. And I also thought Jason was a very interesting character and I liked the way that he was written. I also think the pacing worked really well in here. And the fact that the pacing worked really well in here makes me hopeful that I'll like the pacing in Leigh Bardugo's other books. So maybe I'll put those up on my list of want to read sooner rather than later. That way I can get the fast pacing, because with how my mental health is right now, I do need fast paced books. So for me, Wonder Woman Warbringer was just okay. It doesn't add anything to the wide world of canon for Wonder Woman, but there was some good stuff about it, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. And then I read Volume 9 of Chainsaw Man. Volume 9 of Chainsaw Man is very heartbreaking. Something really big happens to one of my favorite characters that I had spoiled for me, so I knew it was coming, but it still surprised me. I don't understand how Makima's powers work. They're explained more in here. However, she is becoming more of a full-fledged character instead of just being this background character that's being manipulative, and so I appreciate that she's becoming more of a full-fledged character. I gave Volume 9 3 out of 5 stars. Volume 10 was very confusing for me because I didn't understand a lot of Denji's mindset. I don't understand why he's doing what he is doing anymore. The other downside to this one that is making me wonder if I should continue on with the series is a crap ton of characters are killed off in this one. Like, so much so that I'm not sure that the rest of the series will be interesting to me. It's one thing to like kill off a couple of my favorite characters, it's another thing to kill off the amount of characters that were killed off in this one, and the vast majority of the characters that carried this series for me are now dead. The only thing I liked about this volume, and potentially the only reason I will continue on with this series, is Kobani. She had some good moments in here, and if she becomes more involved in the series, maybe she'll carry the series for me. But I'm a little worried that I'm gonna get bored with the rest of the series now. So I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars. And then I was on a plane and I needed to get caught up on my reading goals, so I read 2 manga when I was on the plane, but I couldn't access anything like the app that I use to read the manga that requires Wi-Fi, and so I just read some that I had on Kindle that I haven't read. The first one that I started off with was To Your Eternity Volume 1 by Yoshitoki Oima, so I don't really know how to describe what this is about, and that definitely hindered for my enjoyment. To me, it sort of feels like some sort of creature came down to Earth and can shapeshift and take over the role of a different species. Maybe? I don't know. And because of that, and because of the way that Volume 1 left off, I don't know where the series is headed and what the main plotline in the series will be, so there's a lot of confusion there for me. However, beautiful, stunning artwork, probably the best artwork I've seen in a manga in years. It was beautiful. It was so beautiful that I was like, maybe I should continue on with the series, but I think I needed more out of the plot to continue on with the series. But honestly, if you're just reading it for artwork, absolutely stunning, absolutely gorgeous. Definitely recommend if you just want beautiful artwork, but if you need more of a story, then I don't really recommend this one, so I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. And then I read Parasite Volume 1 by Hitoshi Owaki. So Parasite is a series in which there are these parasite aliens that come down to Earth and inhabit human bodies, and when they inhabit the human bodies they can shapeshift. It follows a boy who a parasite tries to invade his body, but he manages to limit to only his arm so it doesn't take full control of his body. I think that this idea is really interesting. I think that these type of aliens would be very interesting to read about, and I think I could have liked this series. However, none of the characters resonated or stood out to me. I didn't like any of them, I didn't care for any of them, and I really need character-driven stories when I'm reading stories. I also detested the humor. I didn't find the humor funny at all, and I found that it pulled me out of the story heavily. I think if Parasite had tapped more into the horror side of things and less into this like raunchy, weird like humor, then I would have liked it, but because it was tapping so much into the humor instead of the horror, I didn't end up liking it, so I ended up giving it 2 out of 5 stars, and I will definitely not be continuing with Parasite. So those were the 9 books that I read this month. Hopefully all of you have been having a great start to your April. Hopefully I can get myself a little more happier and under control as the month progresses, but we'll see how things go. I had a convention at the start of this month that went very poorly, and I have 1 or 2 conventions later this month, so we're gonna see how that goes. Hopefully it goes okay. For now, I hope all of you are having a great week, and I'll see all of you in my next video. Until next time, everyone, goodbye.